Quantum Break is a third-person science fiction action shooter developed by Remedy Entertainment, for which are known for making the Alan Wake series and most recently Control, which is also a great game. It was published and funded by Microsoft Studios, who owns the official IP. Written by Tyler Burton Smith and Mikko Rautalahti. It was directed by Sam Lake and Mikhail Kasurin. Quantum Break follows the story of Jack Joyce, a resident of the fictional town of Riverport, Massachusetts, who, after a time travel experiment goes wrong, gains the ability to control time and must stop a growing fracture in time from bringing about the end of the world. Seems cool, right? Announced in May 2013, Quantum Break was advertised as an entertainment experience, which combined live-action scripted television and traditional third-person gameplay, using gameplay mechanics traditionally associated with interactive stories such as Life is Strange or most of the Telltale games. Released worldwide on April the 5th, 2016 for Xbox One and Windows, Quantum Break received generally positive reviews for its story and gameplay. Why? Well, I'm gonna give you a brief summary of the game. The game starts with our main character Jack Joyce coming back to his hometown of Riverport.
Whoa! Come on! Watch where you're going, man! Fuck off!
Get out of the road!
He enters Riverport University to meet his friend Paul.
Protest's over. Head home.
Not why I'm here, Chief. After that safety whistle.
Jack meets up with Paul and they exchange some quality bromance. Paul explains that he's made a time machine with Jack's brother William.
Come on, man. Dazzle me.
Well, if you insist.
He's pulling his cock out!
And Paul needs Jack's help to activate the machine to prove it can function. Whilst activating the machine, William intervenes to stop the experiment, but the time machine core malfunctions and causes an explosion. The explosion releases chronon energy that causes Paul and Jack to pass out. However, they awake to find themselves being in a time stutter. Jack frees his brother from the stutter but is interrupted by the entering of Monarch security. Jack and William escape and Paul continues through the machine. Whilst making their way through the university, William explains what happened to time.
Explosion make time go bad.
We fight off some more of the enemies until William is captured. We chase after him, but we are introduced to an ally of Beth, who works undercover in Monarch. She tells us of our brother's location, we pursue it and save him. However, an older Paul appears and attacks the brothers and kills William by an explosion. Paul explains that William caused this and there was no other way. Jack gets kidnapped and taken to Riverport's industrial area, escaping Monarch during a time stutter. Jack rescues either Nick or Amy, some students that were apprehended by Monarch who agree to help him.
Oh, shit. What are you, some kind of goddamn X-Men?
Working off a clue with Beth Wilder, Jack heads to the abandoned swimming pool, where he finds that Will has built his own time machine and created a countermeasure to fix the fracture, being known as the CFR. However, the time machine is inoperable. Jack suggests that they kidnap Dr. Amaral, Paul's head of chronon research, in order to fix the time machine and go back in time. Learning she'll be attending a Monarch gala, Jack surrenders to Monarch and learns that Paul was accidentally sent to the end of time in the future, only escaping by travelling in Will's machine back in the first activation of it in 1999. Escaping through the Monarch labs, Jack and Beth kidnap Dr. Amaral for a stutter, before a drone seemingly is about to kill her. Beth escapes by the sea with Amaral, while Jack defends them and steals Paul's car, and goes for a wicked joyride.
Oh, I'm hurt! Oh! I'm back!
Paul is revealed to be dying from Chronon syndrome. He lashes out at Mutch and Hatch, as Dr. Amaral was the only one capable of making his treatment. Now paranoid, Paul places all his trust in either Amaral or Hatch. Paul also recognises that Beth from security footage was a girl that she met at the end of time who attempted to kill him. Taking Amaral back to the Bradbury swimming pool, Jack and Beth force her to help repair the time machine.
I just watched a ship fast forward through a fucking bridge.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Jack and Beth plot to head to 2010 and steal the countermeasure. Beth steps into the machine as Dr. Amaral sabotages the computer and alerts Monarch.
You changed the date. Where is she?
After stopping the Monarch's forces, Jack heads to 2010 and finds Beth, but much older and disturbed. Beth explains that Admiral sent her to the end of time where she met the younger Paul, failing to kill him. Beth followed him back to the first activation in 1999 and stopped him from murdering Will. After directing Will to create the CFR, she waited 11 years for Jack to arrive in 2010. Beth and Jack reach Will's workshop and find the CFR, but Paul corners Beth and shoots her when she refuses to cooperate. The CFR is accidentally activated, throwing Jack forward to 2016. Beth shuts off the CFR but is executed by Paul while Jack can only watch through time.
No!
Increasingly paranoid and ill, Paul is informed that despite his lab being destroyed by Hatch, one treatment was recovered but it was damaged. Paul either decides to take it and buy time for himself and his plan, or succumb to his paranoia and illness. As the stutters become nearly consistent, Jack fights through Monarch's HQ.
I was getting close. Paul had the key to fixing the...
Reaching Paul's lab, he acquires the CFR, and Jack learns that Paul was using it to power a lifeboat, a small bunker where researchers could devise a solution for the end of time. Unable to work the CFR, Jack uses Monarch's time machine to travel back to its first activation, the night of William's death. Rushing through the university, Jack narrowly rescues Will from the falling debris. Will warns Jack that he cannot simply repair the fracture then and there, as it would erase key future events and risk a time paradox. Reaching the Bradbury swimming pool, Jack and Will travel forward in time, only to find Paul and Monarch waiting for them. Paul is intent on either retrieving the CFR or destroying it. Jack fights and kills him, hooking the CFR into the time machine. Will asks Jack to jumpstart it with his chronon energy. The CFR activates and blasts the area with chronons, which in turn stabilizes but does not fully repair the damage done to time or the Maya-Joyce field. Paul is seemingly disintegrated, vanished. As William examines the CFR, burnt out from the blast, Jack has a vision of his future self traveling to the end of time and begins to exhibit symptoms of chronon syndrome, like we saw in Paul before.
He's stable now.
In a flash forward, Jack is shown approaching the frozen Beth back at the university, whispering that he'll come back for her. An epilogue shows that Jack leaving an interview and being approached by Martin Hatch, who explains that everything has been simply blamed on Paul and offers Jack a place at the renowned Monarch. Jack is shown seeing a split pathway seemingly ending before he makes a decision.
There is another thing that makes this game special. This would be the involvement of a live-action TV series based on the game. The series focuses on the exploits of Paul Serene and Martin Hatch, as well as a couple of Monarch employees such as Liam Burke, Charlie Wincott and Fiona Miller. The series takes place in between the acts of the games, and the episode will be dependent on your choice on the previous junction impact. The episodes focus on the villains, and the game focuses on the heroes. This broadens the narrative of the game immensely, using different mediums to express one connected story. There are 4 episodes to connect the 5 acts in the game. First episode, Monarch Solutions, take place after Act 1 and at the beginning of Act 2. It introduces us to our characters. When Jack goes missing, Martin employs Liam Burke to recover him. However, he finds Beth at the scene, who opens his eyes about the secrets that Monarch has. The lifeboat protocol is revealed to him, and that leads him on a path to protect his wife and get a position on the lifeboat to be safe at the end of time. He tries to infiltrate Dr. Henry Kim's lab, but is stopped by Charlie Wincott, leading to Liam being apprehended. Episode 2, Prisoner, takes place at Paul's gala, where he wants to reassure the corporation's employees of his control. During this, his chronon syndrome gets worse. Either Paul or Hatch can interview Jack, depending on the choice you made before. Elsewhere, Liam plots to escape captivity on Gull Island, same as Jack. Charlie Wincott is there with his colleague Fiona Miller. Fiona is trying to get Charlie to gain her access to Dr. Henry Kim's lab. Fiona secretly works with Beth. Fiona and Charlie encounter a free Liam Burke, and the three discover that Dr. Henry Kim is a shifter. At the gala, Sophia Admiral discusses with Hatch that the stutters are accelerating quicker than anticipated, but Hatch doesn't care. Episode 3, Deception, takes place after the gala. Fiona and Liam are on the run when betrayed by Charlie, reporting them to Hatch. Hatch manipulates Charlie into thinking that Paul is becoming out of control and that non-essential personnel are not cared for, but promises Charlie that he will be safe on the lifeboat list if he removes the CFR from Paul's control. Liam and Fiona encounter Charlie again and threaten him. Charlie complies, but he has something up his sleeve. Now focused on Hatch, he plants evidence against Dr. Amaral and talks to Dr. Kim. Afterwards, he destroys the lab. Back to the three. Fiona, Liam and Charlie were ambushed by some Monarch security officers near the outskirts of town, being arranged by Charlie. This leads to Liam Burke being shot. Unknowing to them, Liam survived the shot and escapes to the hospital where his wife works. He takes her away to Monarch HQ and takes out security, but is still got. Now, the final episode, the Lifeboat Protocol. This takes place when time is collapsing and the Lifeboat Protocol is activated. Charlie accesses the Monarch security mainframe and adds Fiona and himself to the lifeboat. Outside the city, Fiona is distressed and tries to contact Beth, unaware she is dead. Jack Joyce contacts Fiona and explains to her that he's looking for the countermeasure. Fiona helps and arrives at Monarch HQ in the lifeboat. She and Charlie make amends.
Fuck you.
Depending on the fourth junction impact, Liam and Charlie's path diverge. A clear-headed Paul can convince Liam to protect the CFR and promises Burke's wife's safety. Charlie will try to help Jack and calm Liam down, but is killed by Hatch, who is killed by Liam. On the other hand, a paranoid Paul can kill Sophia or send her to the lifeboat. Charlie will convince Liam to steal the CFR so that Jack can use it to fix the fracture. However, Liam is killed by Martin Hatch. Charlie attempts to kill Martin but fails. Martin is then shot and killed by Emily Burke. Charlie now prepares to help Jack by putting on a shifter suit. To conclude, the series looks very good. The cinematography is well thought of and the acting is very good. I think of it as a well-made miniseries that ties up many loose ends that may be present in the current game story. This also adds more depth to the story due to it focusing on more characters than just the main character. The focus on villains is interesting because we get an insight of why these villains do the things they do. The reception to the series was mixed, stating that actors were convincing and that the pacing was good, but the lack of character development made the stories a bit stale. Also, the abundance of Microsoft product placement was also very clear. Despite this, I definitely recommend watching it whilst playing the game. It may break up the momentum, but it depends on you. Now for some little background on the game. FYI, most of the information comes from the Quantum Break fandom page, where I got most of my information, and so I'm just displaying it. Pre-production for Quantum Break began as early as 2012. The concept for Quantum Break was developed during the time Remedy attempted to approach a sequel for 2010's Alan Wake. They pitched it to Microsoft, however they wanted a game with an interactive story. Remedy ultimately decided to focus on developing a story focused on quantum physics. To continue development, a demo had to be shown and create good results to continue funding. The game would be episodic like Alan Wake, but instead of only focusing on the main character, like in Remedy's other games, such as Max Payne.
Okay, let's see what we're working with. Whoa, nice cock.
The Quantum Break story would be pushed by other characters as well as Jack Joyce. The demo was finally done. It was referred to as a guided experience, featuring action sequences, interactive junctions, story and character development. The original actors were Geffen Anthony as Jack and Aaron Richard as Beth, both being respected actors. Geffen was later replaced by Sean Durry, who is known as Nick in the game. However, they were replaced in the final release. The cast were kept out of the news until late 2014, displaying Sean Ashmore with Dominic Monaghan. The demo appealed to Microsoft, pushing Remedy into a full production deal of the game. Remedy wanted to create a visually distinctive look in the game, creating a difference between normal time and broken time. Director Sam Lake referred to the art form as cubism, leading to them looking at glitch art and strobe photography. Using the aforementioned art and photography techniques, Remedy created a work base of different visuals in order to create the look and feel of a dangerous environment. Remedy inserted distortion waves animated with 2D fluid simulations and projected them onto the environment. Music would adapt to the specific time powers, either being muffled or slowed down, making it seem like time was actually being slowed, including light and sound.
Hey, I'm warning you, this is not a fight you want to start.
Then stand down.
I'm not gonna do that.
He's got a gun! Open fire!
Yellow was used to guide the player like in Alan Wake, and that can be seen in other games such as Uncharted. A public demo was made to demonstrate the strength of their new engine, the Northlight engine, which allowed them to create the time stutters. Stated before, the game was announced in May 2013. Live footage and demo sequences were intertwined to make a new experience. The game featured many delays from their original release date of 2014. It was necessary to make the game more polished, and that is definitely what we would have needed in this day and age. Summer of 2015, Remedy announced that Quantum Break would see a release date during spring of 2016. In February 2016, on the official Twitter page, the game finally went gold.
That Quantum Break has gone gold. Cheers.
Being released on April 5th, 2016. Game's reception was mixed, but still gathered favourable reviews. The story was said to be engaging and paced well, despite its short run time of about 10 hours. The game has been classed as one of the best looking Xbox original titles, being the best selling retail game in the first week of its release in the UK. This exceeded Microsoft's expectations, meaning that a sequel could have been in the works. However, Aaron Greenberg, the general manager of marketing for Xbox, said in an interview that, like every movie, not every game needs a sequel. Sometimes that's okay. Honestly, I think Remedy wanted to go on to other things such as Control instead of focusing on one franchise. The game series still has potential, and it would be sad to never get to see what our new technology can do to such a compelling story. Honestly, if Microsoft had a better strategy to market the game could have done way better in terms of gaining and retaining an audience. Personally, I love this game because it does have a bit of nostalgia tied to it. When I got an Xbox One, it was a big leap in terms of the PS2 I had. Main games I remember playing at the start of my Xbox One journey were Batman Arkham Knight and Quantum Break. I would tell my friends about this game and even lend my disc to them to play, and they would tell me how fun the game was. The game is truly stunning, utilising the Xbox's resources very well. The acting is very good for a video game, and that's what I want to communicate to many. Video games are still stories, and they may not be culturally accepted as stories, but they still are. Powers make the gameplay intriguing, and the junction impacts makes the game creative in variety and replayability. The TV show is a very interesting concept. With enough time, merging the two mediums of TV and games can be done way better, making the transition smooth as butter. Thankfully, Remedy's new game, Control, has brought back the idea of Quantum Break for Easter eggs and theories. If Alan Wake can come back, why can't Quantum Break? Will we ever see a sequel? Well, only time can tell.